high-speed rail, governance. I want to talk about two aspects of high-speed rail governance, organizational and disciplinary. First, organizational. In the late 1990s, the Chinese central government grasped the large SEOs and let go of the small. The rail transportation grid, its stations and its rights of way, its management, and the companies that manufactured its equipment were large. Referred to as the last fortress of the planned economy, the rail network was centrally controlled by the Ministry of Railways, a ministry second only to the Ministry of Defense in power. With over 2 million employees, it had extensive property, plant, and equipment. It had well-established research institutes. It had its own police and its own health services. It planned, built, maintained, and managed China's railways. To professionalize and inject market discipline into its conservative and bureaucratic culture, in the year 2000, just before China's entry into WTO, the government reorganized the companies under the Ministry of Railways. The rolling stock operations were divided into two competing companies, China Southern Railways and China Northern Railways, CSR and CNR, along with four other Ministry of Railways SOEs, China Civil Engineering, China Railway Construction, China Railway Engineering, and China Railway Communications and Signal were spun off from the Ministry of Railways. The shares of the spun-off companies were transferred to the newly formed State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission, SASAC, reporting to the State Council. SASAC, which held the SOE shares from companies across many sectors, functioned as a financial results-oriented asset management company, like a major institutional investor in the West. The reorganization moved China's railway grid away from the coordinated control of a single industry conglomerate under the Ministry of Railways. The rolling stock company under the Ministry of Railways, China Railway Locomotive and Rolling Stock Industry Corporation, comprised 33 factories, 4 research institutes, and renminbi 26 billion in assets. It was split into those two competing companies, CSR and CNR, generally by using the Changjiang River, also known as the Yangtze River, as the dividing line. Generally speaking, everything north of the river was put into CNR, and everything south of the river went to CSR. In March 2013, the Ministry of Railways was dissolved. Planning, policy, and administrative governmental functions were folded into a new State Railways Administration under the Ministry of Communications and Commercial Activities. The ownership and running of China's freight and passenger railways, including high-speed rail, were put into a new state-owned enterprise owned by SASAC, the China Railways Corporation, CRC. As the second decade of the 21st century advanced, it became clear that high-speed rail was an infrastructural, if not a commercial, success. China had gone from zero to more high-speed rail lines than the rest of the world combined in 10 years. Yet, the wisdom of splitting the rolling stock companies, CSR and CNR, was increasingly being questioned. While the split had promoted competition, it had also increased overcapacity, and some blamed it for exacerbating corruption. Excess capacity at CSR and CNR caused the two rolling stock companies to turn their attention to international markets, where they also fiercely competed. The competition became an expensive embarrassment for a Chinese government that wanted unified national champions in the global marketplace. And so the government swung policy back to reversing the strategy of 2000. As one CNR executive put it, managers of state-owned enterprises should act like politicians in comprehending the intentions of their supervisors, so they took the initiative in applying for merging. After clearing regulatory hurdles in multiple jurisdictions, the China Railway Rolling Stock Corporation was formed in August 2016, creating the largest supplier of HSR rolling stock in the world. Since then, the CRC has been reorganized several times, most recently in 2019 when its name was changed to the China State Railway Group, or CR. The objective of the reorganization has been to reform its high-speed rail operations, establishing modern, market-oriented enterprises. Yet, as with critical infrastructure in the rest of the world, where natural monopolies exist in their provision within countries and where the call for national champions exist in international competition, the optimal balance between planned and market economics has yet to be discovered. Disciplinary governance. HSR's story is that of an unprecedented infrastructural project involving massive construction and real estate development. In China, as indeed everywhere in the world, real estate development, infrastructure projects, and large construction projects in general are associated with more corruption than other industries. Why? The costs of land acquisition, preparation, and construction are very high, so external financing, often obtained from a variety of sources, is needed. From envisioning to completing the project, promoters must involve many parties. Even with open tender for contracts, perfect competition is unattainable. Opaque and conflicting regulations may govern. Authorities at the national, regional, and local levels may overlap. Markets may be fragmented by land use. Regulatory implementation may be subject to discretion and change. And real estate prices fluctuate through boom and bust cycles. These offer huge opportunities for intermediation, arbitrage, and speculation. Those without money and power are left wondering whether real estate empires are the fruits of hard work, skill, luck, vice, crime, or some combination of all of these. This is true in the West. This is true in China. HSR needed visionary leadership. That leadership came from the Minister of Railways from 2003 to 2011, Liu Zhijun, also known as Great Leap Liu, the engine driver of HSR, and Lunatic Liu. Forcing a formally conservative ministry to manage the largest infrastructure project in world history, Liu faced controversy. Allegations of corruption in thousands of equipment construction and financing contracts increased. In February 2011, Liu was placed under shuanggui, non-judicial arrest of a CPC member by the CPC to investigate allegations of Liu's violations of discipline. Eventually, Liu, his relatives, and his friends were implicated for hundreds of millions of dollars of corruption, which supported his extravagant lifestyle that included money, cars, and more than 350 flats and 18 mistresses. Liu's insistence on fast implementation had been criticized for cutting corners on safety. In June of 2011, while Liu was under shuanggui, that extrajudicial arrest, lightning literally struck. The lightning strike on an HSR line near the city of Wenzhou in Zhejiang province caused an HSR train to have a power down. But the sensors also failed. Unaware of the power down, a second HSR rear-ended the powered-down train, killing 40 people and injuring 192. Accidents happen. But accidents like the Wenzhou disaster weren't supposed to happen in China's high-speed rail project. Post-accident investigations uncovered manufacturing, quality, and systems management problems. They also showed that corruption was rife in the Ministry of Railways in general and in high-speed rail in particular. High-speed rail middlemen expected cuts of between 1 and 6%. If one uses that 1% as the lower bound, high-speed rail has probably generated at least $7.5 billion in bribery payments, many times more than the corruption exposed in Liu's trials. Liu was stripped of his job and purged from the CPC. His prosecution became a major case in Xi Jinping's drive against corruption. Liu was arrested and criminally charged. In August of 2013, Liu was sentenced to death. His death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment in 2016, and he remains in prison today. The completion of the high-speed rail project that Liu drove forward is one of modern China's triumphs of innovation. But issues of governance, organization, and discipline remain work in progress.